Trajan Langdon had his press conference talking about the trade deadline. We're just going to break down a few of the talking points that he made and why it's so important for this team. As you can see, we are in a car at work in the middle of winter, and I don't want to have the car on with the heat or else there's too much noise. So we're just going to get right into it. He was mentioning that he was talking with Cade Cunningham throughout the process, kind of getting his idea of how to build the roster. So what that shows me is he trusts Cade. And obviously, if you're giving Cade that 5-year rookie max extension, you need to be able to trust him, right? You can't just blindly uh, give a guy that much money. But at the same time, if you're going to give that guy that money, you have to set him up for success. There's other managers who I think have a big ego and wouldn't have those conversations, or they might have some, but not as extensive. Um, there was also a point that Cade made saying that he trusts his vision and what he's doing. Cade has been through an awful few years of being a Piston in terms of management with Troy Weaver in the last regime, but he's seeing some promise already. I mean, they're fighting for the 6th seed in Trajan Langdon's first year. Obviously, a lot of that was laid out by the previous regime, but without the moves that Trajan made, they might be still bottom of the East, might still have Monty Williams. There's a lot of issues that could still be here. Malik Beasley did not want to be traded out of Detroit. He's been a huge part of other teams at high levels. The fact that he wants to spend this time in his career in Detroit, some of that might be because he knows Detroit has money and he knows that they would pay him and he knows that he has a big role. So, in a contender, you might make less money, you might have less of a role, but in Detroit, he gets all of that. Either way, he's great for the culture and he's been one of the big guides to becoming the culture we are. Another front office member was talking to Langdon about how this culture, it might be a top 5 locker room culture in the league. Then that's overnight. That's a very different from last year. I mean, we were 30 something games into the season and people were already talking about, well, in this season I need to build up my tape. And you shouldn't have that. It should be about the team. It should be about the basketball. He also mentioned seeing Dennis Schroeder playing with Cade Cunningham and with the bench unit. I alluded yesterday in my video. He started a lot of his games earlier this season. He started like 23 out of 23 in Brooklyn and 16 out of 24, 18 out of 24 in Golden State. I don't think you can just ask him to sit on the bench. Maybe that's how it starts, but I could see him progressing to becoming a star. The last big point I want to make was he was saying there's going to be a time to make a big trade, but they have to remain flexible until then. That's an amazing point because you don't just want to make a trade to make a trade, get a big guy to get a big guy when you don't have a future plan. They're trying to make a structure so then when they bring a big guy in, it's not just going to crash down or they're not locked into something if it doesn't work. They want to have that flexibility. You see the Charlotte Hornets training for like a Yusuf Nurkic, and they've been training for bigger contracts this year. Yeah, they've been getting firsts as they come on, but they have to do more with them and figure out more. Detroit's been taking on basically expiring contracts for those seconds, so they're not going to have to deal with it after next year. They're going to have cap space, and they have these picks to then combine for something even bigger. One player that I've always kept an eye on is Lauri Markkanen. How long is he going to be patient with Utah in their rebuild approach? Like, what if it doesn't work and they don't get Cooper Flag or Ace Bailey, one of the top guys, and then next year they aren't great again? Are they going to then move him for assets? So what I want to see Trajan doing throughout this offseason is building up that war chest we talked about in our last video to make it so you can have a realistic chance to get a guy like that, or even be in the running. You don't even have to land him. But the thing is, you need to be in the running to get one of those big players because eventually you're going to have more assets than other teams, or the situation is going to be more desirable where they're going to want to go to you. So you have to be ready at all times because who knows when you get a situation where a guy wants to go to one team and that one team is Detroit. So great press conference overall. One of the best press conferences I've seen out of the Detroit Pistons front office in years. Thanks for joining me. Next time we'll hopefully be back in the studio. We can break some of this down a little bit more. See you later.